Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So I'm breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate for tonight on Draftkings. We got the Packers versus the 49ers and what should be a pretty interesting slate. There's going to be a lot of players missing in this one on both sides of the ball. The Packers, they have a serious RB situation here. If Aaron Jones can't play in this one, you'll have two $200 running backs over on Draftkings that are going to be certainly viable in this one if Aaron Jones happens to miss. And the 49ers, pretty much everyone's out for them. Like, there's just so many guys that are either injured or they're dealing with coronavirus-related things. So their entire starting offensive unit to begin the season is pretty much gone, and some of the backups are gone as well. So it's kind of an ugly situation here on both sides of the ball. But it sounds like this game is going to be played, so at least we have football tomorrow, or I guess tonight. I'm recording this the night prior, but it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. But also, if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. We'll try our best here to sift through all this news that we have. But anyway, we'll start with the quarterback position. And up top, we have Aaron Rodgers at $11,000. Like I previously mentioned, there's going to be a lot of value in the slate, especially if Aaron Jones happens to be out. If Aaron Jones is out, you can make whatever lineup you want. I mean, you still probably can because there's a lot of value on the 49ers side of the ball, especially at the wide receiver position. But I mean, if Aaron Jones happens to be out, I mean, you have two potentially starting running backs for the Packers that are around $200, and then you have some $200, $400 guys for the 49ers that are going to be in starting roles. So it's pretty much build whatever lineup you want, and you could easily fit in Aaron Rodgers in the captain spot if you so choose to go that way. I also like Davante Adams as well, but I know Rodgers is expensive here, but I don't really think price tags are going to mean much here. You can pretty much build whatever the heck you want. And he's having a fantastic season so far, nearly 300 passing yards per game, about 3 passing touchdowns per game, and not really throwing in any interceptions as well. And they have a nice team total of 28 here. And it was 5-point spread to start the week, but with all the injuries and coronavirus-related things for the 49ers, that has now moved to a 7.5-point favor for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers on the road. And I think that's pretty accurate. I would not be surprised if the Packers have a very, very nice game here versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, if you look at their numbers versus the pass this season, they haven't been awful, but they're 17th EVA versus the pass, which is barely below league average. It's pretty much mid-pack. And they're allowing the 11th fewest points per game to quarterbacks, but look, Aaron Rodgers has been playing fantastic, and this is a showdown slate, so I'm always going to have interest in quarterbacks, but the way this is, where we're going to have so much money to spend up for because of all the value, Aaron Rodgers is a very easy plug-and-play. It's just a matter if you want to use him in your captain spot or not. I mean, really, the two captains I like the most are going to be Aaron Rodgers or Davante Adams because you can pretty much do whatever the heck you want with the given salaries that we have for some of these guys that are not going to be in the starting roles. And especially if Aaron Jones is out, that's just going to make the Packers have to rely on Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams even more, which I really think you have to have that anyway to make them good plays. But if you take Aaron Jones out, it's pretty much just the Rodgers and Davante Adams show for the most part, and especially with no Jamal Williams or even Dylan. So definitely like Rodgers here, and definitely one of the leading candidates for me to use in the captain spot for sure. Then Nick Mullins at $9,200. I'm going to have interest here. Now, his options are depleted. I mean, he doesn't have Kendrick Bourne. He doesn't have Ayuk. He's missing a couple of running backs. He's not going to have George Kittle either. Now, the one good thing, I guess, is that it sounds like Jordan Reed might be able to be back for this game. And if that's the case, that's definitely a boost for him. Now, he is certainly no George Kittle, but the guy is a very good pass-catching tight end. And we saw earlier in the season before Jordan Reed got hurt, which, trust me, he always gets hurt. So there's always the potential of him getting hurt in this game. But he had 2 touchdowns, and look, he's definitely a viable pass-catching option, and there's a decent chance that he could be the number 1 target for Nick Mullins if he happens to play. But man, is it rough for this 49ers offense? And also, they just got rid of Dante Pettis. He signed with the Giants, so not a lot of options for Nick Mullins to get the ball to, but I have to imagine these guys are going to be trailing most of this game, which should lead to a decently pass-heavy game script. Now, again, he doesn't really have many options to get the ball to, but they're not going to just throw for 0 yards in this game. Nick Mullins is more than likely going to get over, 200 passing yards, hopefully. I know he doesn't have a lot of options, but I think he can get his way to 200, hopefully get a touchdown or two, and on a showdown slate, the way this showdown slate is, I think that might be good enough. So definitely have interest in him in the flex spot, but for the captain spot, I'd probably either try to stick with Aaron Rodgers or Davante Adams. If you want to get crazy, you could go with another position, but those are the two guys I'm really kind of keying in on the captain spot, especially with all the expected value that we're going to have. Then moving on to the RB spot, there's a lot of injuries here, and I try to filter out the guys that are definitely not playing in this game. But Aaron Jones, he is currently questionable, and this is I think this is a big spot in this slate, because if Aaron Jones plays, that does change that dynamic here, because he's obviously one of the best running backs in football, and he's very involved in the passing game, and he is a guy that can certainly break open a slate. The problem is, the Packers don't really like trotting guys out there that aren't 100%, and he hasn't been able to get into full practice yet this week, which is definitely concerning. So I would not be surprised if he is out once again this week, and if that's the case, we're going to see Tyler Ervin and Dexter Williams handle the load there. Now, I would expect Dexter Williams to probably see more touches than Tyler Ervin, but even then, that's a messy situation. But I'm honestly not expecting Aaron Jones to really play in this game, although with no Jamal Williams and no Dillon, they might just say, you know what, we're not going to do the 100% thing. We're just going to throw Aaron Jones out there just because we need bodies on the field. I could certainly see that being a scenario as well. So this is definitely something to monitor. We're probably going to have a game time decision here. I believe that the most recent report was that he's going to test it out in like a pregame workout. So probably won't know until about an hour before the game starts, which kind of sucks, but we'll definitely have to keep our eyes posted on that news, because if he's out, you get some even more excellent value plays in Ervin and Dexter Williams, because they're going to get guaranteed touches. Like, there's really no one else for the Packers to get the ball to in the running back position, so we know they're going to have guaranteed roles in this offense, and they're $200, and this is a very good offense. Now, the only problem is the 49ers are very good versus running backs, and they're actually allowing the fewest points per game to the position at 17.9 points per game and only 65 rushing yards per game as well, and 7th DVOA versus the run. But like I said, this is a good offense, and look, the 49ers are just depleted. The Packers are 7.5-point favorites here, so whoever's the starting running back for the Packers should have a pretty solid game. If Aaron Jones happens to be out, my lean is that Dexter Williams is going to see the majority of the touches here, but Tyler Ervin will be involved as well, maybe more of a pass-catching option. Man, is that just an ugly situation overall, but they're definitely great value plays if Aaron Jones happens to be out, which I really think that's what it's going to lean towards, just because the Packers don't really like to push their players. And then after that, we have the 49ers running backs, so we're not going to have Mostert, we're not going to have Coleman, and we're not going to have Wilson. Again, both these teams' running back situations are absolutely awful, but the 49ers running backs are priced up, so you're not getting these guys for $200 like the Packers, but we're going to certainly have interest here just because the Packers, they're one of the worst defenses in football, and they actually are giving up the most points per game to the position. And I know what you're probably thinking, that's kind of inflated last week from Dalvin Cook, but they were actually, before that week, they were still giving up the most points per game to running backs. Dalvin Cook just certainly cemented that number even more, but close to 40 points per game in their 22nd DVA versus the run. Now, the preferred option here for me is Hasty at $7,200, and he's actually less expensive than McKinnon, which I thought was surprising when the salaries came out, because I think we can assume he's going to get the majority of the touches here. We saw earlier in the week that Jerick McKinnon is dealing with tired legs, I guess. I mean, I thought that was kind of weird, but he's still going to have a role. He's not going to not play. I mean, he has to play. We're not going to have Hasty. He's only a running back. I know you have Juszczyk, but he's the fullback, but although he's slightly involved in the game. You never know. He might catch a couple of passes, but Hasty's definitely the preferred option here. I actually think he's one of the strongest plays on this slate. We know he's going to have guaranteed volume, and like I mentioned, this is a very, very soft matchup versus Green Bay. McKinnon would be more of the tournament play, but Hasty, I think, is a much better play overall. Then after that, like I mentioned, Juszczyk, he's there. He might catch a pass or two. Maybe he gets a random goal line fullback dive. That's always possible as well, but I mean, I don't really see a reason to want to play Juszczyk when I think more than likely Aaron Jones is out. Then you have Tyler Ervin and Dexter Williams, and obviously more guaranteed roles. So, really for me, it's like Hasty, and then if Aaron Jones is out, you have Williams and Ervin, but I would prefer Williams over Ervin if you're only playing one. And then with that being said, we'll move on to the wide receiver position, which is just about as ugly as the RB spot. I mean, obviously up top, you have clearly one of the best plays on the slate and the obvious best wide receiver on this slate. Clearly, I don't really think that's in question at all. But we have Devontae Adams at $12,400. Super expensive, but like I mentioned, guys, there's so much value in the slate, and we have plenty of value wide receivers here as well. So don't worry about the massive price tags. I think Adams is perfectly fine in your captain spot. Yeah, I know he's close to $20,000 there, but it really doesn't matter here, because if Aaron Jones is out, this slate's it's just completely open. You can do whatever you want. You can probably leave some salary on the table as well. I've not tried to build lineups yet, but I can't imagine you're going to be like too pressed for saving salary on this slate. But Adams, we know he's one of the best wide receivers in football. He's scored 4 touchdowns, or no? Did he have 3 touchdowns last week? Yeah, he did. He had 3 touchdowns last week, so that's 5 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. And look, Adams is, especially if Aaron Jones is out, Adams is already the focal point of the offense, but even more, they're just going to rely on him. And I would not be surprised if he sees over 15 targets in this game. Past 2 weeks, he's seen 16 and 12. And again, I would just not be surprised if Davante Adams just continues his hot streak and just absolutely dominates in this game. Now, the matchup versus San Francisco, I wouldn't say they've been exactly soft versus the pass this season. And he should see a good amount of Jason Verrett, who's played very well this year, but we saw DK Metcalf he just destroyed that secondary last week. And look, I love DK Metcalf. I think he's awesome, but I think Davante Adams is better, and he's also got Aaron Rodgers showing the football. Now, that's no slight to Russell Wilson. I'm just saying that Aaron Rodgers, his wide receiver one, always tends to have some pretty good games for the most part, and there's really no one else to get the ball to. Like, do you really want to throw the ball to MVS? And you're not going to probably not have Aaron Jones. Yeah, Robert Tonyan's there, but Adams is the only guy. I mean, just volume alone, he's a great play, but you got to also add in the fact that he's super talented, and he's been on absolute fire. And now, like I said, the matchup isn't super soft. They are only allowing 36 DraftKings points for into the position, which is 11th fewest in the league, but I don't care about matchups. One, for Davante Adams, and two, look, it's very easy to fit him in here, so absolutely love Adams here. MVS, $3,400. I guess he's fine as like a contrarian play, but I'm not really too interested there. He doesn't really get much volume. If you're looking at the past few weeks for him, he saw 1 target, 5 targets. Overall, it just hasn't been really strong for MVS. If you're looking at his fantasy points, it's been 3.3, less than 1, 6.2, and overall some very ugly numbers. So I'd probably try to go somewhere else than MVS. Is there a chance that the 49ers defense just tries their best and just brackets Adams and tries to keep him out of the game, especially with no Jones? Yeah, that's totally a scenario. Then in that case, MVS is going to see softer coverage, and he could pop off for a decent game. Like, he's got big play upside. He's got Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, so I don't think you should like full fade the guy. It's just, if I'm building one lineup, I'm not too excited about plugging in MVS, but there are scenarios where it could work out. And then after that, you kind of have a bunch of garbage in St. Brown and Malik Taylor. Yeah, they're on the field for the Packers, but I mean, I don't really think it's necessary to have to play like the wide receiver 3 or 4 for the Packers when we can get the wide receiver 1 for the 49ers, and wide receiver 2 for like $400 and $200, so we're not going to see more volume. Now, they obviously don't have Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, but I mean, still just volume alone. So we're going to start with Trent Taylor because I don't really think we have to talk about Taylor, Shepard, or Equanimeous St. Brown. So Trent Taylor, he is the wide receiver 1 in this offense now by default. There's no Kendrick Bourne, there's no Brandon Ayuk, and there's no Deebo Samuel, who I forgot to mention earlier. So yeah, it's pretty much just Trent Taylor here, and or George Kittle. So welcome to wide receiver 1 status, Trent Taylor. Now, we could look at all these numbers on the season, but they mean absolutely nothing because we have not been in this situation yet. So at $400, Trent Taylor, I would imagine he's going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate. I mean, it's just easy just to plug him in. I know he doesn't have the name value that Adams Rodgers has, but at $400 for the wide receiver 1 in this team, yeah, we got to have some interest. And they're 7.5-point dogs. I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. And I don't see a scenario where Taylor doesn't hit value unless he happens to get hurt during the game early on. But outside of that, you can't really project that. So, yes, we like Trent Taylor. Now, the Packers, they've been stingy versus wide receivers, allowing the 6 fewest points per game. But they're 20-50 versus the pass. And overall, I don't care. Give me a volume receiver at $400. I will take it. Then dropping down. So there's a couple of guys that are going to be playable here. Now, I'm not really Roberts and then Bagel, whatever. I mean, some of these guys, it's like, who? I totally get that. But the guys I have interest in here are River Kraft, Richie James, and Kevin White. That's not a name I've heard in a long time. But anyway, these guys are going to have roles in this offense, and they're $200. So they are certainly all in play for me. Richie James is probably the most interesting to me. If you below Trent Taylor, obviously Trent Taylor is the clear guy I like the most, but that from 400 down for the 49ers. But I would say Richie James is my second favorite. Then White, then Kraft. I mean, we really can't go off of any numbers this season. Like, they just don't exist. But they're going to have roles in this offense. No Deebo, no George Kittle, no Ayuk, no Kendrick Bourne. A lot of running backs are missing as well. So it's kind of open season for all these wide receivers to have a shot. And they're going to get some targets, and they're going to be on the field for sure because they just need warm bodies out there playing football. So I like Trent Taylor a lot. After that, I would say Richie James, then Kevin White, then River Kraft for the most part. So lots of value, and like I said, guys, we can build whatever lineup we want because these guys are free. and probably end up leaving some money on the table too if you want, which would definitely be a nice way to kick a trade because people hate leaving money on the table, that's for sure. So tight ends, again, it's a little situation here because there's not going to be George Kittle and Jordan Reed. I like Jordan Reed, but we don't even know if he's going to be officially playing. He's still in the IR. He's got to get activated. Obviously, if he's not activated, don't play him because he won't be on the field. But if he's activated, he's going to be the tight end 1 here. And I would not be surprised if he's the leading target receiver for the 49ers. Not that that's saying too much, but still, but before I talk about that, let's just talk about Robert Tonyan quick. He's $6,400. I think he's a fine option here. He's been seeing work this year. I mean, it's nothing too crazy, but a little bit less than 4 targets per game, but nearly receiving touchdown per game, 11% target share. Again, this is not pretty, guys, but he's still a viable pass catching option for Aaron Rodgers. And if Jones is out and all those guys, I mean, it's just going to be a little bit more work for the other guys on the team. And not that it really correlates from Aaron Jones to Robert Tonyan, but still, I mean, I think Tanyan's a fine play. Now, the 49ers, they have been stingy versus tight ends, 3rd fewest in the league, and the Packers have been stingy versus tight ends as well. They're both 3rd and 4th, and allowing just a 0.1 difference in terms of fantasy points given up per game. But Tanyan's a fine option. It just, he doesn't stand out too much for me. Jordan Reed, $5,800. Like I already mentioned, if he is good to go, I like Jordan Reed quite a bit just because someone needs targets on this team. And Jordan Reed's actually talented. The only thing that he struggles with is staying on the field, but he would definitely be a good option for me. When he was on the field this season, he had about 5 targets per game, over 3.5 catches per game, with 13% market share of the team's air yards. He was getting into the end zone as well. Very limited sample size. Very, very limited sample size. But still, Jordan Reed would definitely be a good option for me. If Jordan Reed's out, we have Ross Dwelly here at $4,800, who would be the clear tight end option in San Francisco. I mean, really the only option for the most part. And he would be viable. On the season, he's only getting about a target per game, but again, George Kittle is going to be out, and then you got to see what's going to happen with Jordan Reed. So a lot of things can change on this slate. So I'm just kind of trying to give you guys scenarios. But if Reed's out, I mean, Dwelly, I mean, he's going to see targets, and there's always the off chance he can get into the end zone. And after that, I wouldn't really touch any of these guys. You got Sternberger, Lewis. If you're going to go cheap, just use one of the wide receivers. I don't really see a reason to want to use any of these super cheap tight ends for the most part. Then the defenses, they are what they are. Now, I actually think, well, I'd say both are viable just because the Packers have so much unknown at the running back position, but even then, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams could probably light them up, so I wouldn't go as far to say that. But the Packers are certainly in play. Now, if you guys remember the last showdown slate, which was on Monday with the Buccaneers and Giants, the Bucs defense was, what was it, 7,200? You can get the Packers at 5,200 versus pretty much an entire B and C squad for the most part. Like, that team is in ruins. They're missing all their starters. No Jimmy G. I didn't even mention Jimmy G when I was talking earlier. Like, yeah, there's no Jimmy G here either. Although I'm not sure if that's too much of a downgrade for the 49ers after what we saw against Seattle. Nick Mullins came in and scored. But so you don't have Jimmy G. You don't have Coleman. You don't have Mostert. You don't have Wilson. You don't have Debo. No Ayuk. And no Kendrick Bourne. And no George Kittle. So Packers defense, I mean, you can't really ask for much more. So they're certainly in play for me. They're not the greatest defense in the world, but they have been pretty stingy versus the pass, and I can't imagine the 49ers are going to be in too much of a position here to be running the ball all game. So I think the Packers defense is certainly playable. Probably wouldn't go for the 49ers. And then as for the kickers, they are what they are. You can't really project kickers. If they hit their field goals, they become decent value plays. It's just a matter. Like we saw Suckup have a very, very strong game for DraftKings purposes on Monday night, and you definitely wanted him in your lineup, so something similar like that happens again, it could happen. But again, good luck projecting kickers. It's just a matter if the team scores a bunch of touchdowns or if the drives stall out and they kick field goals. I mean, just good luck guessing. But at 4,000 and 3,600, they're fine salary relief options. But I'm not really sure you have to go there this week just because there are so many $200, $400, $800, whatever guys that are certainly viable on this slate. With that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it. And also, I should mention, Richie James is questionable. So he's not confirmed that he can play. But if he does play, just everything I said, I meant that. If Richie James is out, obviously that'd be a boost to some other guys like Kraft and Kevin White as well. But I just wanted to say that because it was on the top of my head. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed the game on Thursday. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next one.